Hello, my friends, fellow countrymen. I'm going to call you a countryman, even though you're up in
Sure.
Canada.
Okay. That's,
We're in
I
North
mean,
America.
it's so close. Plus,
Yes, it is. Fellow continent person.
we've got a kinship. We've got a
Yeah,
relationship that
we're on the
spans
same
borders.
continent. Yes, we're world, one world.
Hmm. Love it.
Not only that, I have a sister-in-law from um, Edmonton, Alberta.
Oh, it's cold there right now.
So we went to my brother's wedding up there, and your people were just so amazingly nice.
Oh, that's
It
great.
was
I'm
just
glad to hear that.
fantastic. It was like welcome to the family. It was so cool.
Oh,
So Laura's up in
prairie people.
what's
Love
that?
them. Prairie people, you gotta
Very
love them. I'm
people.
I'm from a place called Saskatoon, not
Uh-huh.
that far from Edmonton. It's in a different province, but it's only
Uh-huh.
about 5 hours drive from
Okay.
Edmonton. And so I know prairie people well, and they're
Wow.
good people.
It was to this day I remember it. And so Laura's up there in Vancouver,
Yeah.
and I'm down here in Augusta, Georgia, home of the Masters tournament. You know what that is?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're a golfer, you want to come to this is Mecca for golfers. You got to make it. You got to make a pilgrimage here once a year, at least once in
Sure.
your life. So, Laura, we're talking about your book. Why don't you just
We
show
are.
us what it is and
There it
tell
is.
us what it is?
It's called It's Not Them, It's You: Why Employees Break Up with Their Managers and What to Do About It. And it is I guess you could call it a little bit of a guidebook
Yeah,
for resolving bad manager behavior. And by that, I mean the type of behavior that leads to sort of a lack of inspiration and a lack of engagement with your team. And it provides some tips and some tools to implement to bring that back and to set you off in the kind of direction that you want to be, to engage and to retain and to inspire the
it
people who work with you.
it is so cool that you said at the very beginning of this chapter. So we're kind of wrapping it up.
Hmm.
The leadership traits of the book, and you discuss what they are again, kind of rehash them a little bit.
Hmm.
But before you do that, you end up saying, "Hey, y'all, you don't have to design a system. You don't have to buy all these expensive tools. You don't have to do a whole lot. But here's what you say: just read the book and just start with it.
Yeah.
Implement. It's just learn from this and start doing it." And that was music to my ears. Music to my ears because it is rich. A manager, a leader at any level of an organization is going to get some wake up, some inspiration, wake up calls in this book. I hope. And that's why we're here, to promote your good thinking about this stuff called leadership and management. So that's a wonderful thing. So you want to kind of wrap up. Tell me again. You used your leadership traits, and they made up the word respect. You
That's
want to
right.
just kind of highlight again what that stands for, and maybe say a little bit
Yep.
about each trait.
Exactly. Sure. Happy to do that. So respect, really, it is an acronym, and
Mhm.
it's made up of R for relationships, E for empathy, S for support, P for promotion, E for empowerment, C for consideration, and T for trust.
Mm.
And I started off with the letter R. Um,
Mhm.
had the case study with Rosalie, but also the trait associated with that started with an R, and that is relationship. And for me, that is the key. So when
Yeah.
you were talking just a moment ago about not needing a whole bunch of fancy systems and spending big budget on things, this is what we're talking about here. It really does all stem from having that relationship with the people that report to you. And the way to develop this relationship is to have conversations with them.
Mhm.
Just to have those, I advocate having weekly, but if you can't do weekly, having them at least, twice a month or
Mhm.
once a month.
Say
If
it,
you
Laura.
get to,
Don't apologize.
I
We're
mean,
so
I mean,
important.
I know sometimes managers are in real squeezes for their time.
Yes.
I know that. But if you can manage to do this, it will ultimately pay off in time savings, and it will certainly help you to develop the kind of relationship that you need to engage and inspire those who work with you. And a spin-off from this relationship, if you have a good relationship with somebody, you will understand what they need from you. You will
Mhm.
develop empathy.
Mhm.
You will know how to support them in the ways they need support. You will know how to promote their growth and their development within the organization. You will know when to empower them and how to empower them, and you will trust in them that you can empower them. You'll have consideration. You will think carefully about the impact of your words and actions. You'll also be really considering their value to the organization and helping to foster that. And then trust. Trust is the bedrock of all of this. And if you have a good relationship with them, you will know that you can trust them and you will be the kind of person that they can also trust.
I think that I just, I'm a visionary,
Mhm.
just joking. I'm not.
No, you are.
But
You
no,
absolutely are.
what I saw was respect going down. I saw lily like a golden thread tied onto the
Yeah.
R, and it just kind of wiggles through the different letters, that if you're building that relationship, if you have that relationship, if you know how important the relationship is
Yeah.
through those one-on-ones, that's the golden thread. It's it's the relationship that's built through regular contact, regular
Mhm.
conversation,
Yes. Yeah.
structured conversations, even in a way, but
Sure.
regular, scheduled one-on-ones is the golden thread that you get to practice all that stuff. A
Mhm.
relationship is going to be a good relationship, and we
Yeah.
all can get better. It's going to have empathy. It's going to have support. It's going to be considerate of others. You're going to exchange trust with each other, and those relationships in the one-on-ones, you are going to empower people because
Mhm.
you're going to
Mhm.
just you're going to and they all go together. That's what's so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, you can't really have one without the other because trust leads to empowerment.
I
uh,
agree.
Empowerment leads to, you got to have support. So it's
Yeah.
all good, it's all virtuous. They're great leadership traits. I wanted to you also kind of share about things to do and not do when you're having these
Mhm.
one-on-ones, and I
Mhm.
love the tips and tools, but I'm going to just say one thing, and then I'd love for you to kind of highlight what are some things that you would say to a manager on how to conduct a
Sure.
good one-on-one.
Okay.
So I have this, I read something, and here's what it said. If the manager spends more time looking at a computer monitor or phone during a one-on-one meeting than looking at their team member, it'll be abundantly clear to employees that whatever is going on screen is much more important than they are.
Mhm.
So, um, what that to me means is managers, leaders of any sort have got to get better with attending skills. And that means that if you're in a meeting with other people, other humans, and especially one-on-ones, you shouldn't be distracted. You should, as best you can, shut yourself off from the world and everything that's going outside your door so you can have that relationship being built. It's sort of sacred, actually. It's so powerful. It's so powerful that we shouldn't allow it to be interrupted. Almost, they're powerful. It's a powerful thing to do to get your company and get your team uh, going in the right direction. So attending skills, and I'll say nothing else but this, but I learned from my first boss after the Navy that we never had a meeting where we weren't sitting in chairs, um, you know, next to each other with a table in between,
Mhm.
looking at each other, talking, wasn't across her desk. She wasn't doing anything else but meeting with her guy.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's attending. She listened so well. Um, she challenged me. It was all good. So managers got to, you could tell us some basic things about what kind of makes up for a decent meeting, right? A one-on-one.
Sure. So to start with, I'd like to say that, the overarching theme through this book, through all these stories, was respect.
Right.
In the stories, it demonstrated lack of respect.
Hmm.
And respect is something that people crave. Think about how you feel when you're
Hmm.
respected.
Hmm.
You feel good about yourself but you also feel really good about the other person. Okay. You feel good about the choices you've made, about where you are at within the world in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You feel valued. You feel appreciated. You feel like you are bringing something to the table. When you are in a one on one conversation and whatever is going on over here, or, I don't have my phone with me, but, on the phone, whatever's happening there is taking the attention away from you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't help but feeling just a little bit disrespected. Like the words that you are saying don't really matter as much as that email that's coming in or that text message on the phone. Okay. So when managers have all their devices open, when their attention is pulled in all these different directions, they may not intend this, but what they are doing is demonstrating a lack of respect
Yes.
for what's going on right in front of them. So for me, this just seems like a basic thing
Mm-hmm.
to, if you are having a one-on-one with that person, if you are having a meeting with that person and you want them to feel appreciated and valued, then focus on them. Give your attention to them. If you cannot trust yourself to not be pulled, to have your attention pulled away from an incoming email, then turn off your monitor.
Right.
Put your phone in a desk drawer
Yeah.
and leave it alone while you're having the conversation, because there is nothing that makes somebody feel so valued, like their opinion is important, like they are actually being heard,
Mm-hmm.
than when they have 100% of your focus on them.
Mm-hmm.
And as a manager, when you are having these conversations, you are not just like, one-on-one. The one-on-one is not a check-in. Okay. To me, those are two different things. A check-in could be part of a one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Coaching could be part of a one-on-one. But a one-on-one conversation has a different um, objective
Mm-hmm.
than a check-in. A check-in is really about, okay, what tasks are you working on? How are they doing? Okay, that's done. Check. Okay, move on.
Mm-hmm.
Next person. Okay. But a one-on-one is about, who are you as an employee? How do you fit into this picture? And
Mm-hmm.
what can I as a manager do to support you?
Mm-hmm.
It's about communication, and it's about establishing and understanding a relationship. It's not about being best friends. It really isn't. Although sometimes these personal relationships do kind of come out of them, like their friendships arise, or certainly meetings of minds. And, they can be really great, happy occasions where you laugh and you have a lot of fun. But this is about business. This is about understanding what makes this person tick. And the most important thing to people is feeling heard and understood. And so when you are respecting them, when you're focusing on them, you are making them feel heard and understood. You're making them feel valued. And that is one of the best things you can do to engage an employee.
What is in it for me?
Mhm.
I'm a manager. Like, what is in it? What's in it for me to have these, quote unquote, mandatory one-on-ones that you're pushing down my throat? What's in it for me?
Okay, well, what's in it for you? Firstly, now, usually people who feel like these things are being pushed down their throats,
Mm-hmm.
they're saying, come on, what is this like, hearts and chocolates and puppy dogs and soft fluffy kittens
Mm-hmm.
approach to management? This is business, and what I say to them is, hey, look, you know what, in these conversations, the first thing you're going to get is the state of the union. Okay, what's happening
Mm-hmm.
with this person and with their work. So you are going to know what's going on. Now, I realize that I just said these are not a check-in. This isn't a, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? What are you working on? How is it going? Check. Okay. But that can be part of the conversation.
Sure. Right.
All right. So you're going to understand where things are
Mm-hmm.
at.
Situational awareness.
Exactly. So you're always in this communication loop. And that's really important. So many companies have a decided lack of communication,
Mm-hmm.
which breaks things down.
Mm-hmm.
The left hand does not know what the right hand is doing, and things fall apart. This way, you are creating a bridge between that left and right hand,
Mm-hmm.
and you are communicating across. You're communicating about, what does the company need? And you're communicating about what the person needs. So that's the first thing. Communication is a huge thing. The second thing is you have awareness of what inspires and drives the people who are reporting to you. Think of the strategic advantage you have if you know what drives them, if you
Mm,
know what excites them, and if you are then able to tap into that. Wow, the innovation, the collaboration, the quality of work that is delivered through this goes through the roof.
mhm.
It's a huge difference when you can ignite that sort of um, inspiration. And when you ignore it or when you just don't have those conversations, you'll never know what people are capable of.
Right.
You may never know what they could have brought to the table.
You're starting to convince me, Laura.
Okay, well, and then let's just look at it from a third perspective.
Mhm,
The speed of the work increases because again, you know what's going on.
mhm.
You know how great they are at what they do. So then you can put your trust in them. You can give them the tools that they need. You can connect them with the people that can make everything happen for them, whatever it takes.
Right.
But you can really drive these things forward and think about what a hero you're going to look like to your boss when your numbers are nice and high, when your project completion is on track or ahead of schedule. Think about how great that's all going to appear. Oh, and by the way, when those employee engagement surveys come out
Mhm.
and your department is nice and happy, think about the impact that'll have.
That's
So, from a
cool.
strategic POV, there's something in it for you, Mr. Manager,
Mhm.
to have these conversations. And then the other thing to remember, I get hit all the time with two main objections.
Uh-huh.
The first one is, I don't have time to do this.
Mhm.
Managers are in a real squeeze. They are in a real squeeze. Their senior leaders are saying, work, 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 work. And then we're also telling them to take time out from work to
Yes,
meet with their people. And
yes.
I get that. I
Mhm.
truly do. I want to say that if you are feeling this squeeze, understand that initially these one-on-one conversations will take up more time out of your
Mhm.
schedule, but
Initially.
they'll pay off
Mhm.
relatively quickly because again, you'll know what's going on. You'll have this easy communication flow. Once you have a relationship established, you don't have to have 30-minute meetings once a week. You might find that some of these meetings are only 15 minutes. You may find that you only have to meet with them once every 2 weeks
Mhm.
because you have a flow of
Mhm.
communication and you have understanding and you have trust. Once you put in that investment,
Mhm.
it starts to pay off
On the
and
front
that
end. Mhm.
frees you up on
Mhm.
the back end.
Mhm.
Plus, if you know where they're at, if you are trusting that they are on track and they know what they're doing, you don't have to supervise as much anymore.
Yeah.
You can be more hands off. You can go work on some of the other things that have been pressing on you for a couple of months now, and you're feeling so stressed out
Maybe the
about them.
big picture stuff, projects
Yep.
and initiatives and things. So
Yep.
Laura, again, you sound like you know what you're talking about.
Well,
You
I
convinced
have to
me.
say, I have not only do I teach this and
Mhm.
coach this,
Mhm.
and I have also used this approach myself with my own reports and have seen great results from it. But I also, as an employee, have lived this from the employee side.
Yeah.
And I
Someone that did
know,
it well with you.
yep, and I know
Yeah.
how much this has helped me in my work and how much it has helped me to feel grounded, secure, and happy in the companies I worked with. The companies where I did not have a flow of communication, I'll tell you what, there were times when I thought, they have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
They,
Yeah.
I could be sitting here eating bonbons all day and doing like literally nothing because they neither know nor care about me.
That just again, my head explodes that any business would, be that way. It just makes my head explode because it's like, aren't we here to make a difference and make money and be profitable? I want to touch on a couple of things that I thought of when you were talking. Not just me talking, because I do plenty of that. Tell me about, like, how do you get an executive team to do that themselves, as well as champion things like one-on-ones? How would you, have you ever had to convince an executive team that this is really, really powerful?
I have.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I have. And I'm not going to lie, this is a tough sell.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
think it's because they view their jobs as strategic, and
Mm-hmm.
this is not strategic.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing to do is to impress upon them that this is a strategic imperative.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you need to go throughout my book. I talk about the business case for these things. That this is not, of course, this is about feelings, and of course, this is about the more soft skills side of working with people,
Mm-hmm.
but there are business benefits. So throughout my book, I do have statistics. I do have, where the business will benefit from it. And if you are a leader, an HR leader or a learning leader that is trying to impress executive, there are some things that you can pull out from it. The other thing, though, is oftentimes executive, well, not oftentimes, pretty much all the time now, executives are quite concerned about engagement statistics. They have seen the levels of employee engagement globally and are concerned about it. They have also seen what happens with their engagement surveys.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the reason that this is important for them is because they also know how they look outside. Glassdoor has reviews of them that are scathing, and
They
they
even
don't want that out
they
there.
even rate the CEO on
Oh, yeah,
Glassdoor.
absolutely. And that's like, yeesh, that is uncomfortable for a lot of CEOs. So there's an opportunity there to say, hey, I know a way to fix this that is free.
Free.
Okay, we're not. This isn't a fancy system that you have to buy. Okay, actually, sorry, it's almost free. Buy
Time.
a copy of the book.
Ah.
Okay, buy a copy of the book, and then realize that you can put these things into place. In this book, I offer templates. There's a link to my website where you can grab a template for the conversation. I offer questions to start off the conversations. I offer, as I said before, data and sort of specifics of how these things work. And these are the sorts of things that executives want.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to impress upon executives that they too have people reports,
Yeah.
and that those people reports also need some of their attention. They are not exempt from this.
Right. And they're not, if it's not modeled, and it's really, if it's not
Mhm.
modeled by that executive to their people, their reports, then it's just, it's not going
That's
to
right.
trickle down like it should.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought of saying about this whole idea of listening and getting those one-on-ones in, I think it probably changes the dynamic that team members have with each other. If you're doing it right and you're building that relationship with your direct reports separately, in your own one-on-ones with them, I think they feel better, and they can start modeling some of that listening and getting to know their people through regular good conversations,
Mhm.
quality conversations
Yeah.
about the work, but also about their life and their dreams. And so if you start talking about your dreams in a meeting with your manager, you may just be more prone to talk about those kinds of things with coworkers. So
Oh,
you kind of get
sure.
better at knowing who each other is.
Absolutely. You see that sense of collaborative environment and of
Mm-hmm.
appreciation of your coworkers all the time, because that is what you are feeling yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you may not consciously do this, but you are sort of spreading the good feelings, if you will. The other thing that I have found is when you have managers who employ this kind of respectful tactic
Yeah.
with their team, when the managers that I have seen put this into action,
Mhm. Mhm.
Their work units are doing so well.
Mhm.
They are having fun working with each other. They like to socialize
Mhm.
outside of work, or they tend to do things like, hey, let's go for lunch together.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they are also typically doing a lot more work,
Mhm.
and they are having better results.
Mhm.
And that gets the attention of the higher ups, who start to say,
What are they doing?
what's in the water they're drinking
Yeah.
that isn't,
Mhm.
happening over here. And the other thing that happens, and I have I have literally been asked about this by people from outside those units
Mhm.
that are saying, what are they doing over there?
Mhm.
And I'd like to go work on that team. And when I've asked, why do you want to work on that team? They say, because they seem to all really enjoy the work that they do. And I want to be in that kind of atmosphere.
Attractive, literally. Mhm.
Absolutely, it is.
Mhm.
And, you know, for me, it all stems from this conversation. And I've pulled a lot of statistics. I pull a lot of data, engagement data. And there were a couple of things that that really made me sad.
I want
You
to
know?
hear it because it made me sad too, and I think
Yeah.
this kind of like this is like one of the last things you share in your book. But
Yeah.
tell us the sad
Yeah.
story.
So I think it is really sad that, more than half of the people surveyed say that they are quitting their jobs because of their managers.
Hmm.
Now, I think that there's probably even more than that, if you will. I think a lot of people hold back on that, and they leave for other stated reasons.
Hmm.
But I actually do think that the reason they're leaving is because of their manager. They just given kind of a, a, a beauty queen response.
Hmm.
So, so I think the stat could be even higher. But let's go with what Gallup says: about half of the people who quit their organization do so because of their manager. Um, of those people that quit, more than half of them said that there was something that their manager or their organization could have done to keep them there.
Hmm.
So interesting, right? Like, if we know what the cost is to replace an employee, even an entry level employee, the cost is very large to replace them. And if we are losing 20-30% of our workforce each year,
Hmm.
that's a lot of money that we are spending on recruiting, hiring, and training new people, less lack of productivity, all of that sort of stuff, right? To get them up to speed, it costs a fortune. And more than half of the people who quit could have been convinced to
Hmm.
stay.
Hmm.
They some sort of intervention might have kept them there. Interesting. And then,
What would that intervention? What would that intervention should
hmm,
have been?
what do you suppose it could have been? So here's the thing about what do I have here? 51% of the people surveyed, of these people who quit, said that in the 3 months before they left the company, they didn't have a conversation with the manager, a meaningful conversation. 3 months with no meaningful conversation. So, Doug, if you quit a job, how long do you usually give as notice period?
Typically, th- 3 weeks to a month.
Okay,
Month
great.
at my
And
level kind of stuff, right?
yeah, and at different levels, it might be as little as a couple of weeks. It might be as
Right.
much as a couple of months. But regardless, it's
Right.
not 3 months. So what was happening here
Mm.
is these people were feeling neglected.
Isolated.
Nobody isolated. Yep. Nobody was talking to them. So they had enough time to think, I hate my job. Nobody's talking to me. I'm going to look for a job. I'm going to interview a job. I'm going to then give notice and leave. And in that space of time, nobody's talking to them. I think that's so, so sad.
It is. That's what that is, hit me. It cut me to the quick too, because the way you described it, I think I have it right here. I want to, I again, I kind of want to give you credit for how you described this. I'm just pulling up my screen here. Um, it page down. Come on, Doug. Anyway, you ended up saying they're isolated, they're
Now,
lonely, they're
is it,
starved for attention, kind of thing.
yeah,
And so they're just in a dark place as a person,
right.
because there's no connection to their manager. Connections probably eroding with their coworkers because they're planning to leave. It's just a dark place,
Sure.
which doesn't have to be there.
Exactly. And so again, if we go back to that statistic, 3 months. So I get that managers are being squeezed. Okay.
Right.
And I'm saying once a week, but
Right.
if you can't do that, do every other week,
Right.
like
Right.
but these people
Mhm.
are giving an even longer time period. They're allowing 3 months.
Mhm.
And I don't care how big your team is, you probably do have time within a 3-month span to speak to each one of them for half an hour.
Mhm.
And that is, for me, that's like the challenge I lay before you, but I actually don't think it's a challenge.
Mhm.
That is the suggestion I lay before our listeners, to take that half an hour,
Mhm.
okay, and to speak with team members and find out what excites them, what worries them, find out what makes them want to get up and come to work each morning, or get up and go into their home office and turn on the computer, find out what challenges them and what burdens them,
Yes.
and figure out how everybody can work well to make this a place where they all want to be. And that all stems from a respectful, focused conversation.
Yeah. You you said it. It's about people feeling connected
Mhm.
to their place of business, to other
That's right.
people, to
That's
their
right.
manager. That's connection is a huge part of engagement.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know what else there is to say. Is there I do want you to, maybe, you know what? Can I suggest we don't talk about the very last paragraph of the book?
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to
Okay.
leave it.
It's such a good
I
paragraph.
want to leave it for the people to go out and get this book, because it's a powerful thing that an employee said about work,
Mhm.
finding their place, and what it means to them. So let's just leave that for
Sure.
the person that buys your book. And um, I think that also you facilitate, because you're one of those people that love to help people. You facilitate questions.
I
You
do.
you like
Yeah.
spoon feed questions to a manager
Well,
that should he or she should ask in these meetings. Pretty
absolutely.
much, you pretty much put it on a silver platter for people about how to do a one-on-one, what questions to ask to build a relationship, how do you show respect in a one-on-one, how do you empower people in a one-on-one. Many of them are questions, and the best
Okay.
coaches ask a lot of questions. So that's another thing you're advocating for, is being a coaching kind of leader.
Absolutely. When I mentioned there were two things that hold managers back from these, the first is time, and we already
Time.
addressed that. The second one, when I drill down a little further, when I'm coaching managers on why they don't do this,
Mm-hmm.
what happens, the second most frequently brought up thing is, I don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I do find it a little bit unfortunate that we don't know how to start a conversation, but we have so many things that distract us and so many things that pull us in different directions, that I believe it's hard for us to devote this thinking to it. Um, so I've created a list of questions that pertain to each of the different leadership traits,
Right.
different areas. They are a jumping off point for
Right.
conversation. So use them, don't use them. But the important thing is to have that conversation. These questions are designed to get the conversation flowing. And once it's flowing, go along that trail, follow that path to see where it leads you. But if you find yourself again at a loss for conversation, pull up another question and see where that takes you. And once you get used to doing this, once you get used to starting the conversation, once the person, your report, gets used to you,
They trust you.
asking these things, they'll start flowing with the conversation as well. And it does become a lot easier. It's just the first couple of times, if you've never done it before, it's going to feel awkward. It's just like anything. When I first learned how to ski, I had to, what do you call that?
Snowplow.
Snowplow all the time just to stay up on the skis, right? And then after I learned and got more used to the sensation of the sliding downhill on snow on skis, I was able to refine and flow better.
Yes.
With the skiing.
Yes.
The same thing with the conversation.
It's a
It's going to
learning curve.
feel a little uncomfortable, might even be awkward at first,
Yeah.
but stick with it. And just if your report says that you are in this because you care,
Yes.
because you want them to feel heard and understood, and because you respect them and the work they do, then they are going to open up to you. And they will share with you. So it's worth it. It is so worth the investment.
I love how you're wrapping this up, Laura. I think that we have a well, you exude your belief because you know it, right? You know what you know, what you know, what you know, and you're sharing it. I think that we are still in this, we're in 2020 right now, 2020, and there's still a legacy of nobody's modeled that. Let's say 30 years ago, 40 years ago, leaders weren't modeling listening. Leaders weren't doing, they didn't care. They didn't even know it was important. So we've evolved to the point where now we know with data, it's data driven, that we know people need to be heard. People want to be heard. They want to be engaged. We know what works.
Exactly.
And it's a shame that we're still not there. There's a lot of companies that they're not even keeping up with what we have to do to build better workplaces, get more productivity, all that good stuff that comes from engagement and this kind of thing. So Laura, thank you so much for the time we spent in this book. I can't wait to talk about your next book, whatever that will be and whenever it will be. But you're a lot of fun. You live your work. You love your work.
I do.
And it's so cool to be with you. Share a little bit more about your book, its subtitle, and how we can find you.
So my book is entitled, It's Not Them, It's You, Why Employees Break Up with Their Managers and What to Do About It. You can find it on Amazon or Chapters Indigo if you are in Canada. You can also contact me at my company's website is seechangelearning.com. I know you'll put that up in the program notes.
Yes.
As you mentioned before, to our listeners out there, please feel free to contact me. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can email me directly. I'll make sure that you have my email address as well, Doug, and chat with me about this. I offer training to support this whole thing. I've done this a few times and great results from it.
Cool.
And it's something I'm super passionate about. So I can offer this as help to you. But I do think the most important thing is for you to venture out. Read the book, read the questions that I offer, use them as a jumping off point, and then just have the conversations. You don't have to be perfect at this. Just do it. That's what your reports really want from you, is just a sincere effort and appreciation for what they do. They want you to respect them. And this is a great way to show it.
The easiest way to begin doing it is saying something like, I'm going to try something new with y'all. Now, you don't have to make it
Yeah.
I'm just going to try something new with you all. And I want you to let me know how it goes. But just get them like, oh, what are they thinking about? And you're just going to have some relationship building in these meetings. So, Laura Sukorokoff, thank you again. Thank you many times over. And we'll see you down the road. I hope we can stay in touch.
Oh, I hope so too. And thank you, Doug. I've really enjoyed our conversation. For those of you out there listening, one of the ways that Doug and I connected a little while ago was I have a dog named Doug. And so I want you to know, Doug, that my dog named Doug is with me right now, and he's doing just fine.
Awesome. So, yeah. Awesome. Thank you again, Laura.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So that's a wrap with Laura Sukorokoff. Next time we're going to be meeting with Lori Rudiman. She's sort of a celebrity on the HR front, and she is a speaker, an author, a podcaster, and a badass. We're going to be talking about her book, Betting on You, How to Put Yourself First and Finally Take Control of Your Career. It's going to be a good conversation with Lori Rudiman. If you'd like to listen to more bookcasts of ours, just go to www.anchor.fm/Doug-Fine and come visit me on my website. It's www.dougjfine.com. You'll kind of see the kinds of things that I do and can help your company with. Until the next time, thanks for joining me on the Defined Engagement Bookcast, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye for now.